Hey all! In this video, I'm going to share 5 tips that will surely help you reach Mythic and beyond if you aren't already. I won't be sharing generic tips like, have good map awareness and rotate, as you should know that by now. I also won't share tips that won't really make a big difference in your gameplay, like pulling the turtle to avoid giving the enemy vision of it, or to avoid getting hit by Lord's knock-up skill. Feel free to like and subscribe as I upload videos like this on a regular. Now that that's out the way, let's get on to the video. The first tip I have for you is to gank relentlessly in the early game. Especially if you're a mage or tank/roamer. The winner of the game is usually decided early on. The team with the most successful ganks have a much higher chance of winning. Remember, a successful gank doesn't have to be a kill. Getting the enemies to recall is also a successful gank, since they will miss out on gold and experience while your side laner get to push the lane. After you successfully gank one lane, move on to another lane immediately instead of helping your side laner push. If you fail a gank, don't waste any more time on that lane. Go back to mid and clear the wave and return, or go to another lane. Don't let the enemies force you to stay in your turret. That will give them more room on the map to do as they please, take objectives and snowball your team. The game won't last long if you keep that up. Some of the best mages for ganking include Nana, Eudora, Farset and Aurora. Some of the best tanks for ganking include Lolita, Atlas, Kafra and Hilda. These heroes can dominate the early game if paired up.
Well played. An ally has slain the turtle.
I have a question for you. How many of you would have jumped on KD to the moment Eevee attacked her? I hope neither of you would. Because tip number 2 is practice proper timing. As a squishy hero, you never ever want to be first or second. This doesn't apply to every situation though. But generally, you want to wait until the enemies are focused on the tank or fighters, then engage. Don't let them soak damage for no reason though. But don't be too quick to help either. You want to wait until the other enemies show themselves so that you know there are no possible sneak attacks. As a tank, wait until your damage dealers are in a good position. If not, back off a bit and wait for them to get in position. Or else you'll land the perfect 5-man ult and no one will be able to follow up on it.
Give me names and I'll come and assassin.
Tip number 3. Position yourself properly. By the way, I'm using Natalia for this video because all the tips can apply to her. Also, I just really love this hero. But assassins especially have to be positioned the best. If you look at the clip, you'll notice that all my runs are around the fight. This will give me easy access to the back line. And I won't be hindered by the tank or other enemies that easily. As the fighter, you're basically a secondary tank. So you want to be right alongside the tank, hitting as much enemies as possible to maximize lifesteal. If you're using a fighter that's more like an assassin, for example Argus, then you'd want to aim for the damage dealers first. But that's not your primary role as a fighter. Besides, it's hard for some fighters to access the backline. In any case, you mainly want to be a secondary tank for your team when playing fighters and provide CC to the fight. Marksmen and mages ought to be positioned behind their front line at all costs. Do not chase anyone under any circumstance.
Your team destroyed a turret.
If you've followed my previous tips, then you'd probably dominate the early game. To follow up on that momentum, always keep clearing the lanes. That constantly puts pressure on the enemies because the minions will keep damaging the turrets. If that continues happening, it won't be long before they lose an inhibitor and spawn the super minions. In this game you're currently watching, you'd see that we have 3 assassins. So it is imperative that we push the lanes because we will most likely lose the team fights. which was happening a lot coming down to the ending of the game. But because I kept clearing the lanes, the minions eventually took down all their inhibitors while we still had ours. The super minions kept spawning and left the enemies in between a rock and a hard place. Either they fight us in numbers while their lanes get pushed, or they keep defending and we eventually get lured and end a game. That game lasted 30 minutes because my team kept trying to fight instead of pushing. There was a point in the game where only me and Hayabusa were left to defend against 4 of them. The game didn't end because the super minions were really high and I went to split push, threatening to end the game. At least one of them had to recall, which was all we needed to kill their damage dealers. That's the power of pushing the lanes. Once those super minions start pushing, it will soon be GG. They are harder to defend against than Lord himself. The last tip I have for you all may sound crazy, but I'll say it anyway. Only use the heroes you've mastered, even if you should have adjusted. I know it sounds crazy, but let me explain. If your team needs a tank but you know to yourself that you're a terrible tank, you stand a better chance using a hero you mastered. Trust me on this one. I've played many games where I should have chosen a tank, but instead I used my main hero, which is Hanzo. And I almost always win. But what I do know for sure is if I lock a tank, then I'm handicapping my team in a way. But if I use Hanzo, I know his limits. I know what situations he thrives in, I can use his passive etc. Sometimes, 2 mages can be deadly, sometimes, 2 assassins can be deadly. But that's all for this video. If you enjoyed and watched till the end, please like and subscribe as I upload videos like this on a regular basis. Stay safe and thank you for watching.